The chandeliers burned like captured stars, but Delilah Thorne couldn't see their light anymore. 4 days. 4 days since Annika had locked the kitchens, and her vision was tunneling to gray pinpricks as she carried another tray of empty crystal glasses through the mating ball. 500 wolves in human skin danced and laughed and ate. She could smell the honey-glazed quail from across the ballroom, the fresh bread that had been baked that morning while Annika locked her in the coal cellar. Her stepmother's voice cut through the music like a blade. "The garbage bins are out back, rat. That's where your kind feeds." Delilah's knees gave out. The marble floor rushed up to meet her face, and she thought, this is it. This is how I die, at a party, surrounded by food I'll never taste. Then everything stopped. Not just her fall, the music, the dancing. The entire ball froze as Alpha King Maxwell Draven appeared beneath her, impossibly fast, catching her in arms that felt carved from warm stone. "Mine," he said, and the word cracked through the ballroom like thunder. Delilah, half-conscious and delirious, thought, "Oh gods, this is so much worse." Before we continue Delilah's journey, please like this video, hit that subscribe button and comment your city below. Let me know how far this story travels. Now, let's begin. Delilah woke to silk sheets and thought she was dying. No other explanation made sense. The bed was larger than the coal cellar. The ceiling soared above her, painted with clouds and gold leaf stars. Sunlight poured through windows that stretched floor to ceiling, and the air smelled like lavender instead of mold and her own fear. She was definitely dying. This was some kind of fever dream before the end. Then her stomach cramped with familiar hunger, and reality crashed back. Not dead, just somewhere impossibly wrong. She rolled out of bed, still wearing her stained servant's dress, and went straight for the window. 3rd story. Climbable ivy covered the wall below. She had one leg over the sill when a voice spoke from the doorway. "That's ivy, not wisteria. It won't hold your weight." Delilah froze. Alpha King Maxwell Draven leaned against the doorframe, dark hair disheveled, wearing a simple white shirt with the sleeves rolled up. He looked exhausted. He looked concerned. He looked nothing like the terrifying sovereign who'd caught her mid-fall. "I wasn't asking for gardening advice," she said. "No, you were asking for a broken neck. Come inside, please." The please stopped her more than his rank did. Delilah pulled her leg back but stayed perched on the windowsill. Flight risk. He seemed to understand, keeping his distance. "I need to explain what happened," Maxwell said carefully. "At the ball, when I caught you. You said I was yours, in front of everyone." "Yes." "Why?" He exhaled slowly. "Because you're my mate. My wolf recognized you the moment I scented you. I've been searching for a decade, and you collapsed at my feet like the universe has a sense of humor." Delilah stared at him, then she laughed, bitter, exhausted, slightly unhinged. "So your nose decided we're compatible. That's the magical destiny. My stepmother starved me for years, and the universe's response is a supernatural arranged marriage. Phenomenal system, really well thought out." Something flickered in his eyes, almost amusement. "It's more complicated than that." "It always is." Maxwell moved slowly into the room, telegraphing every step. "I don't need a mate to rule. The prophecy says my line ends without one, but that's my problem, not yours. My wolf has been searching for you specifically, not just any mate. You." He stopped several feet away. "I'm not asking you to accept it. I'm asking you to stay alive long enough to decide." Before Delilah could respond, a knock sounded. Maxwell's jaw tightened. "They're here." "Who?" "The council, and your stepmother." Delilah's breath stuttered. No, she can't. "She petitioned for custody the moment you collapsed. I denied it, but they have concerns about a human queen." His voice went hard. "You don't have to see her. Say the word and I'll send them away." Delilah thought of 4 days without food. 16 years of cruelty. Annika's smile as she locked the coal cellar door. Something cold and defiant crystallized in her chest. "No, I want to face her." The council chamber was all dark wood and judgment. Lord Tady O'Brien stood with his arms crossed, radiating disapproval. Lady Meredith Charles looked sympathetic but cautious. And there was Annika, dressed in elegant morning gray, her face the perfect mask of maternal concern. "Delilah, darling," Annika said, reaching for her. You poor child, this must be so overwhelming. Delilah slapped her hand away. The room went silent. Touch me again and I'll scream, Delilah said clearly. I don't care who's watching. For just a microsecond, Annika's eyes flashed pure black. Then the mask returned, wounded and confused. Sweetheart, I don't understand. I've only ever tried to care for you. The Alpha King cannot bind himself to a human, Lord Tadio interrupted. It's unprecedented. So was my father choosing a common-born mate, Maxwell said quietly. Precedent is just tradition that hasn't been broken yet. Tadio's sneer deepened. The girl is clearly unwell. Lady Annika has cared for her since her parents' deaths. It's only proper. I collapsed from starvation, Delilah heard herself say. At a ball with enough food to feed my village for a month. Does that sound like proper care to you? The silence stretched. Lady Meredith spoke carefully. These are serious accusations. Then investigate them, Maxwell said. But Delilah stays here, under my protection. For how long? Tadio demanded. The mating ball ends in 7 days. Unclaimed prospects return home. Those are the laws. Maxwell looked at Delilah. Then she has 7 days to choose. If she wants to leave after that, I won't stop her. Delilah met his eyes, saw the truth there. He meant it. 7 days, she agreed. Then I decide. Annika's smile never wavered, but her eyes promised violence. Of course, darling, whatever you need. As the council filed out, Delilah's hands finally started shaking. Maxwell noticed. You did well, he said softly. I think I'm going to be sick. That's allowed too. She looked at him, really looked. Why are you being kind to me? Because you deserve kindness, and because you're braver than you think. He moved toward the door. I'll have food sent up. Eat what you can, no pressure. After he left, Delilah sat alone with bread and soup and butter. Simple things, safe things. She managed 3 bites before the tears came, but she kept eating anyway. That felt like victory. Delilah discovered freedom in strange increments. The door to her chamber had no lock. She tested it 17 times the first morning. Certain it would click shut and trap her. It never did. Healer Thessaly brought breakfast without being summoned, eggs, toast, fresh fruit, and didn't take the plate away when Delilah only managed half. Just said, eat when you're ready, and left the rest. By the 2nd day, Delilah's hands had stopped shaking. By the 3rd, she could walk to the kitchens herself, and the staff smiled instead of shooing her away. Small freedoms, terrifying freedoms. The wardrobe incident happened on day 2. Palace servants arrived carrying gowns. A dozen of them in silks and velvets, colors Delilah had only ever seen on nobility. She stared at the blue one, deep as twilight, and felt her chest constrict. I can't, she said, backing away. If I ruin them, Annika will. Maxwell appeared in the doorway, drawn by her rising panic. They're yours to keep, to ruin, to set on fire if you want. Why would I want to set them on fire? I don't know, but you could. That's the point. They're yours. Delilah touched the blue silk with shaking fingers. The fabric whispered under her palm. I've never owned anything this color. Maxwell's voice softened. Then it's perfect. She wore it to dinner that night, cried twice while getting dressed, wore it anyway. The threads started appearing on day 3. Delilah was walking through the east garden when she noticed it, a shimmer in the air between 2 gardeners, silver and gossamer thin. She blinked. It remained. When one gardener laughed, the thread pulsed with light. She thought she was hallucinating until she touched a passing maid's sleeve to ask for directions. The moment their skin connected, Delilah saw everything. The maid's future unspooling like ribbon, marriage to the baker's son, 3 children, a long life, a peaceful death. Delilah jerked back, gasping. Miss, are you all right? Fine, Delilah lied. Thank you. She ran. Maxwell found her in the royal library at 2 in the morning, surrounded by books on lunar weavers, ancient texts, execution records, her parents' names in faded ink. Can't sleep, he asked quietly. Delilah didn't look up. Thessaly told me what I am, what my parents were. Pause. They were executed as traitors for manipulating the king's fate. Yes. You knew. I suspected. Maxwell moved closer. Your mother was the king's sister, my aunt. That makes you. Your cousin. Delilah's laugh was hollow. You're trying to mate bond with your cousin. Second cousin, and it's not about bloodlines. He sat across from her, held up his hand. It's about this. Delilah saw it then. A silver thread connecting his palm to hers, thicker than the others, pulsing with steady light. Beautiful and terrifying. You see it too, she whispered. Since the moment I caught you. She stared at the thread. What does it mean? That we're connected. That my wolf recognized you before my mind did. Maxwell's voice was careful. That you smell like moonlight and heartbreak, and I couldn't let you fall. Delilah touched the thread experimentally. Warmth flooded through her, and for a moment she felt his emotions, concern, attraction, bone-deep protectiveness. She yanked her hand back. That's invasive. Yes. I didn't ask for this. I know. The honesty steadied her. Delilah met his eyes. The books say lunar weavers can see fate, change it. Is that what I'm doing, seeing these threads? Probably. Maxwell leaned forward. What do you see? Futures, deaths. When I touch people, I see how their story ends. Her voice cracked. I saw yours. His expression didn't change. And you die alone, unmated. The royal line ends with you. Delilah forced herself to continue. Unless I stay. That's not why you should stay. Then why should I? Maxwell was quiet for a long moment. Because you deserve to choose your own fate, even if that choice is walking away from mine. The training grounds incident happened the next morning. Delilah, restless and tired of feeling weak, sneaked down to watch the guard practice. Conrad McConnell noticed her lurking and offered to teach her basic self-defense. Just some holds, in case you need them. She agreed. Within minutes, she was sobbing. Conrad's hand on her arm to adjust her stance, and suddenly Delilah saw everything. His thread, his fate, his death in 3 weeks defending the northern border. A blade through the ribs, dying in the mud. And she saw the others too, every soldier in the yard, their futures bleeding through her vision like watercolors in rain. She couldn't stop it, couldn't unsee it. Maxwell found her in the weapons shed, curled in on herself, rocking. I can see how they die, she gasped. All of them. I can see it and I can't stop it. He didn't tell her it was fine, didn't offer empty comfort, just sat beside her and said, We'll figure this out, together. Delilah leaned into him without thinking. For the first time in 16 years, someone else carried the weight. Later, Thessaly found Delilah still in the bathing room at midnight. The water had long gone cold, but she'd reheated it 3 times with fresh kettles, marveling that she could. Child, you're going to dissolve. Delilah looked up, Prunny content. Worth it. Thessaly smiled despite herself. The Alpha King asked about you, wanted to know if you were settling in. What did you tell him? That you're stronger than you look, and more stubborn than is strictly convenient. Delilah sank deeper into the water. For the first time in her life, stubborn felt like a compliment. The threads appeared everywhere now. Delilah no longer needed to touch people to see their fates. They hung in the air like spider silk, silver lines connecting servants to lovers, guards to their deaths, nobles to their ambitions. The palace had become a tapestry of destiny, and she was drowning in it. Maxwell found her on the 4th morning, staring at nothing in the middle of the hallway. How many do you see? He asked quietly. Hundreds, thousands. I can't make them stop. He didn't touch her, knowing it would only make things worse. Come with me. I need to show you something. The records room smelled like dust and secrets. Maxwell spread documents across the table, execution orders, trial transcripts, her parents' names in official ink. Lady Meredith Charles stood beside Lord Tadio, both summoned for this revelation. Delilah's parents were tried in secret, executed at dawn, and their bodies were never returned to their family, Maxwell said, his voice carrying the weight of accusation. Lady Meredith paled. That's not standard protocol for traitors. No, Maxwell agreed, meeting her eyes. It's protocol for harvesting. Something consumed them, and it's been living in my kingdom for 16 years. Tadio scoffed. That's impossible, you're suggesting. I'm not suggesting, I'm telling you. Maxwell slid another document forward. 3 villages reported attacks yesterday, citizens turning on each other without provocation, acting on impulses they'd never. He stopped, jaw tight. Their worst selves, like something pulled the thread of their darkest choices. Delilah's voice was hollow. Fate manipulation. Yes. The room fell silent. Lady Meredith looked between them. If what you're saying is true, if something has been harvesting lunar weavers and manipulating fates for 16 years, then we've been hosting a monster, Maxwell finished. A knock interrupted them. A servant entered, nervous. Your Majesty, Lady Annika Green requests an audience with Miss Delilah. She's brought personal items from the family estate. Delilah's hands clenched. Maxwell looked at her. You don't have to see her. Yes, I do. Annika arrived dressed in soft lavender, carrying a wooden box carved with flowers. She looked every inch the concerned stepmother, her smile gentle and wounded. Delilah, darling, I thought you might want these, your childhood belongings. I saved them after. She trailed off delicately. After your parents passed. Delilah took the box with stiff hands. Annika's fingers brushed hers for just a moment, long enough for Delilah to see the thread between them. But it wasn't silver. It was black, rotted, wrong. Thank you, Delilah managed. I hope we can reconcile in time. Annika's voice was honey. I only ever wanted what was best for you. After she left, Delilah opened the box alone in her chamber. Inside, a child's dress, a worn book, and a silver music box engraved with moons. She wound the key with shaking hands. The lullaby played, discordant, wrong, like the mechanism was broken. Then the world tilted sideways and Delilah was somewhere else. A memory, her mother, younger than Delilah was now, weaving silver light between her fingers while singing the same broken lullaby. Baby Delilah cooed in a cradle, reaching for the light. Forget the pain, little moon. Forget the fear. But when the time comes, remember us. The silver light sank into baby Delilah's chest like water into soil. Her mother's face was wet with tears. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But you'll need this. You'll need to forget until you're strong enough to remember. Guards broke down the door. Her mother screamed. The memory shattered. Adult Delilah snapped back to reality, gasping, the music box still playing its broken song. She turned it over with trembling hands and found the inscription on the bottom. For our daughter, who will bind what we couldn't. She understood then, all of it. The starvation, the cruelty, the systematic torture. It wasn't just Annika's nature. It was cultivation. Suffering ripened lunar weaver abilities. Her parents had hidden her power, and Annika had spent 16 years forcing it to bloom. Delilah ran. She found Maxwell on the balcony overlooking the gardens, moonlight turning his dark hair silver. He turned when he heard her. They died protecting me, she said without preamble. From what? From whatever took their power. Annika, the name tasted like ash. It's Annika, it's always been Annika. Maxwell's expression confirmed he'd suspected. Yes. Delilah stepped closer, exhausted and raw. I saw your thread today, your fate. You die alone if I leave. I know. That's not fair. You shouldn't have to die because I'm too broken too. Life isn't fair, but choice is. I won't trap you with guilt, Delilah. She looked at him, really looked. Dark hair disheveled from frustrated hands running through it. Strong jaw clenched with controlled rage. Eyes that held fury for her suffering and infinite patience for her fear. He was offering her freedom, and it terrified her more than any cage. Delilah kissed him. Quick, chaste, terrified. His lips were warm and he went completely still, like he was afraid she'd bolt. When she pulled back, her heart was hammering. That wasn't the mate bond, she whispered. That was me, just me. Maxwell exhaled shakily. Okay, we can work with that. Then Delilah's panic arrived fashionably late. I don't know how to do this. I've never. Annika said I was too ugly for anyone to want, and I believed her. And now there's you with your stupid perfect face and your stupid patience, and I kissed you and I don't know what happens next. Maxwell gently pressed a finger to her lips. His smile was soft, almost amused. We breathe. That's what happens next, just breathing. Delilah inhaled, exhaled. I can do that. I know you can. They stood together in the moonlight, breathing in sync, while destiny threads shimmered around them like stars. The seizure happened at breakfast. Aaron Fisher, a young guard with more enthusiasm than sense, was telling a joke about a wolf and a chicken when Delilah started laughing. Real laughter, bright and surprised. Then her body went rigid. Her eyes rolled back. The threads exploded into her vision all at once. Not hundreds, not thousands, but millions. Every fate in the kingdom converging, overlapping, tangling. Every death, every choice, every possible ending screaming through her mind simultaneously. Maxwell caught her before she hit the floor. Thessaly, now. When Delilah came to, she was still seeing them. All of them. The tapestry of destiny had become a cage of light she couldn't escape. I saw it, she sobbed. All of it. Every path, every choice, every ending. I saw 1,000 ways we die. I saw. Breathe. Focus on my voice. I can't turn it off. Maxwell, I can't turn it off. He did the only thing he could think of. Kissed her forehead and started singing the lullaby from the music box. Badly, completely off-key. The melody wandered like a drunk bee between notes. It was so ridiculous that Delilah's panic cracked into wet laughter. You sound like a dying cat. A dying cat who's trying. Try less, please, for the sake of music everywhere. But she was breathing again. The threads receded slightly, no longer a hurricane but a storm. Maxwell held her until Thessaly arrived, and even then, he didn't let go. 3 villages reported attacks by midday. Citizens turning on neighbors with knives and fists, acting on impulses they'd later claim weren't their own. The council demanded answers Maxwell didn't have. He made a decision, an unauthorized, possibly treasonous decision. Come with me, he told Delilah. The weaving room had been sealed since his aunt's execution. Dust motes floated through silver-shafted sunlight. Looms stood empty, their frames casting long shadows across the floor. The air smelled like old silk and forgotten magic. I'm not supposed to bring anyone here, Maxwell whispered, but I think she'd want you to have this. Delilah approached her mother's workspace like it might vanish if she moved too quickly. A half-finished tapestry hung on the largest loom, silver threads forming patterns she almost recognized. She reached out, touched it, and suddenly knew how. Her fingers moved without conscious thought, pulling threads from the air itself, weaving light into form. The motion was instinctive, ancient, written into her bones. It's muscle memory, she breathed. She taught me before I could walk. The overwhelming cascade of visions began to organize, not disappearing, but sorting themselves into manageable streams. Past, present, future. Fixed fates and fluid possibilities. She could see the structure now instead of drowning in chaos. Better, Maxwell asked. Getting there. Delilah worked for an hour, relearning what her body remembered but her mind had forgotten. Maxwell watched, occasionally handing her tools whose names she somehow knew. By the time sunset painted the room gold, she could control what she saw, filter the noise, choose which threads to follow. That's when she noticed the false panel behind her mother's loom. What's that? Maxwell frowned. I don't know, I've never seen it before. Delilah pressed the carved moon in the woodwork. The panel swung open, revealing a hidden alcove. Inside, jars and jars of silver threads, each labeled with neat handwriting. Names and dates. Elise Sloan, age 22, drowning. Brittany Moss, age 24, riding accident. Cora Bell, age 19, fever. Delilah pulled out jar after jar. Dozens of them. All women, all the right age, all dead within days of arriving at the palace for previous mating balls. These are fates, she said quietly. Collected, harvested. She looked at Maxwell and her voice went cold. She's been killing them for years, making sure you'd be desperate enough to accept anyone when I came of age. Maxwell's face drained of color. Every ball, every woman who came as a potential mate, I thought it was coincidence, bad luck, the prophecy making itself true by scaring them away. His hands clenched. She was murdering them. And collecting their threads. Delilah held up another jar. This one was labeled differently. Succession line, unraveled. Inside, a single golden thread lay coiled like a dead snake. This is yours, Delilah whispered. Your fate. She's been systematically cutting away every possibility except the one she wanted. Me. It's always been me. The implications crashed down. Annika hadn't just cultivated Delilah through suffering. She'd eliminated every other option for Maxwell, engineering his desperation, his isolation. 16 years of careful manipulation, murder, and fate-weaving. "She's a monster," Maxwell said. "Yes," Delilah set the jar down carefully. "And she's coming for me. These attacks, the chaos, it's her, pulling on all these collected threads at once, forcing the timeline." "Why now?" "Because I'm awake, because the binding my mother put on me is breaking." Delilah looked at the jars, at all those stolen lives, those murdered women. "And because she knows I can stop her." Maxwell moved to her side. "Then we stop her together." "This isn't your fight." "Like hell it isn't." His voice was fierce. "She murdered dozens of women to get to you. She's been manipulating my kingdom for 16 years, and she hurt you." His hand found hers, careful, asking permission. "So yes, it's my fight if you'll have me." Delilah looked at their joined hands, saw the silver thread connecting them, pulsing with light. Stronger now than it had been days ago. Not destiny forcing them together, but choice binding them. 7 days, she said. "That was the deal, but I don't think we have that long." "How long do we have?" She looked at the threads spreading through the kingdom, watched them darken and twist as Annika's influence grew. 2 days, maybe less. "Then we'd better get to work." They left the weaving room together, carrying the jars of stolen fates, evidence, proof, and a plan forming between them like the first threads of a new tapestry. Outside, thunder rumbled. The 7-day storm was building, and at its center, a monster wearing a stepmother's face, waiting to harvest the power she'd spent 16 years cultivating. But Delilah wasn't a victim anymore. She was a lunar weaver, and she was done running. Delilah found Maxwell in the training yard at dawn, demolishing practice dummies with controlled violence. Wood splintered. Straw exploded across the ground. His shirt was soaked with sweat despite the morning chill. "You're angry," she said. Maxwell drove his sword through another dummy's chest. "I'm terrified." "Of Annika." "Of losing you." He yanked the blade free. "You saw the jars. She's been planning this for 16 years. She's calculated, methodical, and you want to face her in 2 days." "So am I," Delilah stepped into his space. "Calculated, I mean. I've survived 16 years of her. That's not luck." Maxwell finally looked at her. His eyes were red-rimmed. "That's not the same as winning." "Maybe not, but I need to ask you something, and I need the truth." She steadied herself. "If the mate bond didn't exist, if you'd met me as just me, would you still want this?" Maxwell set down his sword, carefully, like it might shatter. "I stopped the mating ball before I scented you, before I knew. I stopped it because a woman was falling and every instinct I had screamed catch her." His voice was raw. "So yes, even without destiny, I'd want this. I'd want you." The words settled between them like an oath. "Okay," Delilah said softly. "Okay." The council convened at noon. Lord Tady O'Brien was already mid-rant when Delilah entered. Bringing chaos to this kingdom, 4 villages now, citizens attacking each other without provocation, and at the center of it all, her. Delilah walked to the center of the chamber. Every eye followed her. She'd worn the blue dress, armor of a different kind. "You bring chaos," Tadio repeated, pointing at her like she was evidence. "No," Delilah's voice carried. "I bring truth. Someone has been murdering your citizens for years, and you're only noticing now because it's inconvenient for you." Lady Meredith leaned forward. "What do you propose, child?" "Trial by binding." Delilah met each council member's eyes. "Annika claims I'm her ward, that she cares for me. Let her prove it. We weave our truths into fate itself. The lies burn away. It's ancient law. You can't refuse." "You're barely trained," Tadio sputtered. "She'll destroy you." "Then it should be an easy victory for her, unless she has something to hide." The chamber erupted in argument. Maxwell stood from his throne, and silence fell instantly. "The challenge is issued," he said quietly, "and as Alpha King, I accept it on behalf of the crown, tomorrow at sunset." Tadio looked apoplectic. Lady Meredith looked calculating, and Delilah looked at Maxwell with gratitude she couldn't voice. The fight started the moment they were alone. Maxwell followed her to her chambers. "You can't do this." Watch me. Delilah. Don't, she spun on him. Don't you dare try to protect me from my own choices. I'm not trying to protect you from your choices. Maxwell's control finally cracked. I'm trying to protect you from dying. The words echoed in the stone chamber. Delilah's voice went quiet, deadly calm. Then you don't understand. I've been dying for 16 years, slowly, every day, every locked door, every missed meal, every night in the coal cellar. She stepped closer. This is the first time I get to fight back. This is the first time I get to choose. Maxwell crumpled, all that strength, that authority collapsing. I can't lose you, I just found you. Delilah crossed to him, cupped his face in her hands, made him look at her. Then teach me. You're a warrior. Teach me how to win. They spent the afternoon in the weaving room. Maxwell understood combat, strategy, timing, reading an opponent. Delilah understood fate weaving. Together, they built a plan. She'll go for intimidation first, Maxwell said. Try to make you doubt yourself. She's been doing that for 16 years. I'm used to it. She'll weave lies that feel like truth, make you question your memories. Then I anchor to something she can't touch. Delilah looked at him. You, the mate bond, she doesn't understand it because she's never felt it. They practiced. Delilah pulling threads, weaving light, learning to shape destiny with intention instead of instinct. Maxwell watched, offered tactical advice, held her steady when the power overwhelmed her. At one point, Delilah tried to weave a protective barrier and accidentally caught Maxwell's shoelaces in the thread. They fused together. He took one step and went down hard. Delilah couldn't stop giggling, real laughter, bright and young and startled. I'm so sorry. Don't be. Maxwell was laughing too, sprawled on the floor. That's the first time I've heard you actually laugh. She grinned down at him. Your face, though, the mighty Alpha King defeated by footwear. I'll add it to my list of weaknesses, right after stubborn lunar weavers. The laughter faded into something warmer. Delilah helped him up, untangled the threads, let her hand linger in his. I'm scared, she admitted quietly. I know. But I'm doing this anyway. I know that too. Maxwell squeezed her hand. And I'll be right there. Not in the circle, I can't interfere, but right there, you won't be alone. Promise. Promise. That night, Delilah couldn't sleep. She stood on her balcony, watching threads of fate shimmer across the kingdom like aurora lights. Somewhere out there, Annika was watching too, waiting, confident. Tomorrow at sunset, one of them would walk away. Delilah touched the silver thread connecting her to Maxwell, felt his sleeping presence at the other end. Steady, strong, chosen. I've been dying for 16 years, she whispered to the night. Tomorrow I live. The threads pulsed with light. Somewhere, destiny held its breath. The grand ballroom looked different at sunset. Golden light slanted through the windows, catching dust motes and making them dance like tiny stars. This was where Delilah had collapsed 6 days ago, where everything had changed. Poetic symmetry, or cruel irony, she wasn't sure which. The binding circle had been drawn in silver powder across the marble floor, ancient symbols she somehow recognized. The council sat in judgment. The court gathered to witness. And Annika arrived in a dove-gray gown, the picture of elegant sorrow. Delilah, darling, her voice carried perfectly. It doesn't have to be this way. Delilah stood opposite in simple white. No armor, no jewelry, just herself. No, it really does. Lady Meredith raised her hand. The rules, each weaves the story of their relationship into visible threads. Truth glows silver, lies burn black. The kingdom will judge who speaks truth. She lowered her hand. Begin. The circle activated. Silver light pooled between them like liquid moonlight, rising in a column that made the air taste of metal and magic. Annika moved first. Her threads formed images in the light, a beautiful estate with gardens, a young Delilah laughing among roses, warm meals at a long table, new dresses laid out on a bed, Annika's hand gentle on the child's hair, braiding it with care. I took her in when she had nothing, Annika said softly. An orphan, lost, I gave her a home, education, love. The threads glowed silverish, not pure but close. She believed her own narrative, had rewritten it so many times in her mind that the lies felt like truth. The crowd murmured approval. Delilah took a breath, then she wove. The coal cellar materialized in silver light. 4 walls, no windows, a single blanket on stone. The darkness so complete it became a physical thing. Then Annika's hand, forcing Delilah's face into a plate of spoiled food. Eat it or starve. The sound of fingers breaking when 8-year-old Delilah touched a book she wasn't allowed to read. Pure truth, burning silver so bright the crowd had to look away. People gasped, some covered their mouths. Annika's smile never wavered. Discipline, structure, what the child needed after such tragedy. Torture, Delilah corrected, what you needed to ripen my power. Such dramatic words, Annika wove again. Shall we discuss tragedy? Shall we show them what your parents really did? The threads shifted. A new scene formed. Delilah's mother and father, younger, desperate, working frantically in the weaving room. They were pulling at a massive golden thread, the king's fate line, trying to sever the death knot tied into it. Traitors who tried to murder the king with fate magic, Annika announced to the room. Altering destiny without permission, removing the natural death the gods had planned. The crowd erupted. Delilah felt the ground tilt beneath her. They were executed justly, Annika continued. I simply ensured their power didn't go to waste. But beneath Annika's silver threads, darkness rippled. Delilah saw the truth underneath, Annika watching from the shadows as Delilah's parents worked, waiting until they'd successfully saved the king. Then, in the moments after their arrest, slipping into the weaving room and undoing their work with a single cut. The king died. Annika harvested the weavers who could have saved him. You let him die, Delilah breathed. They saved him and you let him die anyway. I let fate run its course. Rage exploded through Delilah. Her control shattered. The threads she was weaving turned chaotic, tangling, breaking apart. Her parents had died for nothing. Annika had murdered them, harvested them, and then tortured their daughter for 16 years to finish the job. The silver light flickered. Annika's smile turned triumphant. Delilah was losing. Then someone stepped over the boundary. The crowd roared objections. Against the rules, Lord Tadio shouted. Others joined him, furious. Maxwell ignored them all. He walked through the barrier like it wasn't there and took Delilah's hand. His silver thread, the mate bond, poured into her weaving like water into drought-cracked earth. Steady, strong, anchoring. You're not alone, he said simply. Show them all of it. Delilah looked at their joined hands, at the thread connecting them that Annika couldn't understand because she'd never felt connection, only consumption. She took a breath, centered herself. Then she wove the truth. Annika's human form peeled away in silver light. Beneath, the void wraith, beautiful and terrible, darkness that moved with hunger, a creature made of stolen fates and consumed souls, wearing a woman's face like a mask. The jars appeared next, dozens of them, each labeled with a dead woman's name. Elise, Brittany, Cora, all the potential mates murdered to ensure Maxwell's desperation. The 16-year plan laid bare, killing Delilah's parents, taking custody, systematically torturing her to ripen her lunar weaver abilities, waiting, cultivating, preparing to harvest. The threads burned silver, so bright it lit the entire ballroom like daylight. The crowd saw everything. Annika's mask slipped, her eyes went pure black. Clever girl. I learned from the best. Delilah's voice was steady now, supported by Maxwell's presence. You taught me that suffering makes power. You were right, but you forgot something. What's that? Suffering also makes survivors, and survivors learn to fight back. The silver light pulsed. The binding circle recognized truth, and the kingdom had its answer. But Annika was smiling, not the gentle stepmother smile, something else, something ancient and hungry. Oh, darling, she said softly, you think this is over. The ballroom's windows shattered. Darkness poured in like flood water, and Annika's true form unfurled, terrible and vast, as the void wraith stopped pretending to be human at all. Maxwell pulled Delilah behind him. Run. No, Delilah stepped forward, threads forming in her hands. Not anymore. The real fight was just beginning. Annika's skin cracked like porcelain dropped on stone. The fractures spread from her fingertips up her arms, across her face, spiderwebbing until pieces began to fall away. Beneath, darkness that moved, hungry, ancient, a void in the shape of a woman. Her voice became layered, dozens of stolen souls speaking in terrible unison. You thought you could expose me. Child, I am exposure. I am every secret fear, every dark what, if every road not taken. And I am so very hungry. The ballroom erupted in screams. Annika, the void wraith, raised her hands, and every jar of stolen fates shattered simultaneously. Hundreds of threads exploded outward like shrapnel, shooting through the palace walls, racing across the kingdom to find their owners. And chaos followed. Through the broken windows, Delilah could see it happening. Citizens in the streets below suddenly turning on each other. A baker stabbing his brother. A mother abandoning her children. A guard attacking his captain. Their worst impulses, their darkest possible choices, all triggered at once. The palace guards tried to form defensive lines, but the violence was spreading too fast. Nobles fled screaming. Servants fought each other in the hallways. The kingdom was tearing itself apart from the inside. "Stop this," Delilah shouted over the chaos. "Please." "Give me what I came for," Annika said simply. "No," Maxwell stepped between them, sword drawn. "Delilah, don't." "How many will die?" Delilah asked Annika. "Before you're satisfied." "All of them, eventually, unless you stop wasting time." Delilah looked at Maxwell, saw the desperation in his eyes, the impossible choice. She made her decision. "Evacuate them," she said. "All of them, you have 10 minutes. "Delilah." "You promised to teach me how to win. This is how I win." She turned to Annika. "Then I'm yours, you have my word." Maxwell's protest was physical pain, a sound torn from his chest. But he trusted her. He had to. He gave the order. The evacuation began. Guards herding civilians toward the gates. Maxwell coordinating, directing, every movement efficient even as his heart was breaking. He kept looking back at Delilah. She walked toward the monster, wearing her stepmother's face. "Smart girl," Annika purred. "Your mother tried to run, you're learning." "My mother didn't have a choice, I do." Delilah held out her wrists. "Let's get this over with." Annika took her to the coal cellar. Of course she did. Poetic, symbolic. The place where Delilah's power had been ripened through 16 years of suffering. The walls remembered every night she'd spent here, every scream, every moment of breaking. The chains clicked around her wrists with familiar weight. Delilah was positioned exactly where she'd been positioned 100 times before. The irony wasn't lost on her. Annika circled like a predator. "Your mother screamed here, did you know that? I kept her alive for days, harvesting slowly. Your father I consumed quickly, he was weak. But her, she was delicious, so much power, so much love for you." She leaned close. "She begged me to spare you, right until the end." Delilah's voice was steady. "You talk a lot for someone who's about to lose." Annika laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Brave words for someone in chains." "Who said anything about bravery? I'm terrified, but I'm also done." "You know, most villains monologue after they've won. You're really jumping the gun here." Annika paused, tilted her head. "Are you mocking me?" "I've had 16 years to practice. You're not that scary once you drop the stepmother act. Honestly, the true form is an improvement. Less false sympathy." The void wraith's eyes flashed pure black. "Insolent child." "Traumatized survivor with nothing left to lose," Delilah corrected. "There's a difference." Annika raised her hands. The harvest ritual began. Silver light ripped from Delilah's chest like roots being torn from earth. The pain was exquisite, absolute, every nerve ending screaming. This was what her mother had felt, what her father had felt. This was the end Annika had been planning for 16 years. Delilah screamed. But even through the agony, she was weaving. Subtle, careful, using the pain itself as thread, just like Annika had taught her. Every moment of suffering in this cellar, every night of terror, every tear, she pulled those threads from the walls, from the stone, from the very air. Annika was so focused on the harvest, she didn't notice. "Yes," the void wraith breathed. "Finally, such power, such beautiful, terrible power." The silver light poured into her like water into a drought. She drank it greedily, growing stronger, more solid. Her form solidified from shadow into something almost real. Almost. Delilah's fingers moved through the pane, weaving threads Annika couldn't see. The coal cellar itself was becoming the loom. Every moment of suffering Delilah had experienced here, binding, knotting, tightening. Almost done, Annika whispered. Just a little more and... The thread snapped tight. Annika froze, looked down. Silver light had wrapped around her wrists, her ankles, her throat. Threads she hadn't noticed being woven, now burning like chains. What? You taught me that suffering makes power, Delilah gasped through the pain. You were right. This place holds 16 years of mine. You put it here. Now it's yours. The weaving tightened. The coal cellar itself was binding the void wraith, pulling her down, trapping her in the same space she'd used to torture Delilah. No, Annika's voice cracked with rage. You can't. I can. Delilah's eyes opened, burning silver. And I am. The harvest reversed. The silver light that had been pouring from Delilah flowed back, and it brought something with it. Every thread Annika had stolen, every fate she'd harvested, flooding back through the connection. Annika screamed. Above them, across the kingdom, the chaos stopped. Citizens blinked awake from their worst impulses, confused and horrified. The violence ended as suddenly as it had begun. And in the coal cellar, Delilah finished the binding. The reversal caught Annika completely off guard. The silver light that had been pouring from Delilah's chest suddenly stopped, hovering in the air between them. Then it flowed backward, rushing back into Delilah with violent force, and it brought something with it. Threads of darkness, pieces of Annika herself, being dragged along like fish caught in a net. What are you doing? Annika snarled. Delilah's eyes opened, burning silver. Finishing what you started. Her fingers moved through the air, pulling threads from everywhere. The cellar walls, the chains, the door, the very stones that had witnessed 16 years of her suffering. Each thread held memory. Pain, fear, hopelessness, all of it woven into the foundation of this place. This place holds 16 years of my pain, Delilah said through gritted teeth. You put it here, now it's yours. The weaving tightened around Annika like a cocoon. Silver light hardened into binding, wrapping around the void wraith's form, pulling her down toward the stone floor. What are you? Annika's voice cracked with genuine fear. Binding you, here, forever. Delilah's hands moved faster, the pattern becoming clear. You wanted my worst day, live it, every day, for eternity. She wove the worst night she could remember into the threads. 8 years old, locked in the cellar for touching a book, Annika's voice through the door saying she'd be forgotten, that no one would ever look for her. The hunger, the cold, the absolute certainty that she would die here alone. That moment crystallized, repeated, eternal. Annika screamed. The sound was layered, dozens of stolen souls screaming with her. She fought against the binding, tearing at the threads, but each one she broke, 2 more appeared. The coal cellar was a loom, and Delilah had become the weaver. But something was wrong. Delilah could feel it. The binding was incomplete. It would hold, but not forever, not without a sacrifice. The threads showed her the choice clearly. To seal the binding permanently, she needed to cut something precious, something that meant everything. Her parents' faces in the music box memory, the warmth of her mother's voice, the love she'd just discovered. Every recovered moment would become fuel for the final knot. Delilah reached for the thread of remembrance. The cellar door exploded inward. Maxwell burst through, wild-eyed and desperate. Delilah, wait. I have to. Her voice was steady even as tears streamed down her face. It's the only way. There's always another way. Not this time. She looked at him, memorizing his face. Take care of the kingdom. Tell Thessaly she was right about everything. And Maxwell, thank you for catching me. She cut the thread. The memories dissolved like morning dew under sunlight. Her mother's face, her father's laugh, the lullaby, the silver light, the love, all of it evaporating. Delilah gasped as something vital was torn away, leaving only the shape of loss, the shadow of warmth she'd never quite grasp again. I had something, she whispered, confused. Something warm, it's gone. The binding sealed with a flash of light so bright it bleached the cellar walls white. Annika's scream cut off mid-sound. She froze, eyes wide, trapped in an eternal loop of the worst moment of Delilah's childhood, over and over, forever. Delilah's legs gave out. Maxwell caught her before she hit the floor. I've got you, I've got you. Above them, across the kingdom, the harvest threads snapped back to their owners like released bowstrings. Fates restored, lives reclaimed. The chaos ending as abruptly as it had begun. People woke from their worst impulses, confused and ashamed, but alive, whole. The palace guard would find the jars later, shattered, empty, their stolen contents returned. Elise, Brittany, Cora, all the murdered women's fates flowing back to somewhere. The afterlife, perhaps, justice, hopefully. But in the coal cellar, Delilah just looked tired. Is it done? She asked. It's done. Good. She tried to smile, failed. Maxwell, who were my parents. His heart broke, shattered like those jars. They were lunar weavers. They loved you more than anything. Oh, Delilah's eyes were already closing. That's nice. Her head dropped against his chest. Maxwell held her, this impossible woman who'd sacrificed her own memories to save a kingdom that had shown her nothing but cruelty. Behind him, Annika remained frozen, experiencing horror on infinite repeat. If I die, Delilah mumbled, barely conscious, make sure Thessaly knows she was right about the seizure risk. She'll be insufferable about it. Maxwell was crying and laughing at the same time. Noted. And Maxwell. Yes. Did I do good? You did so good, better than good. Cool, she smiled finally. I think I'll sleep now. Sleep, I've got you. Thessaly found them 20 minutes later, Maxwell sitting on the floor of the coal cellar, holding Delilah, refusing to move. The healer took one look and started barking orders. Guards appeared. A stretcher. Careful hands lifting Delilah away from him. Maxwell stood, legs numb, and looked at the frozen void wraith. Annika's face was locked in eternal terror, experiencing the worst of what she'd inflicted. It wasn't destruction. It was justice. Seal this room, he ordered. No one enters, ever. They left Annika there, trapped in her own cruelty, and carried Delilah toward the light. The coal cellar door closed, locked, sealed with iron and silver and royal decree. And in the darkness, Annika screamed silently forever, while the kingdom above began to heal. Delilah's eyes opened to sunlight. Real sunlight, not the dim coal cellar kind. It poured through windows she recognized, her chambers in the palace. Thessaly sat beside the bed, knitting. Maxwell stood by the window, looking like he hadn't slept in days. How long? Delilah's voice was rough. They both exhaled like they'd been holding their breath for years. 3 days, Thessaly said. Did we win? You won. Maxwell crossed to her bedside. His face was haggard, dark circles under his eyes, stubble shadowing his jaw. Delilah looked at him critically. You look terrible. You nearly died. But I didn't, so, smile. He did, weakly. It transformed his exhausted face into something almost beautiful. There, see, still pretty when you're sleep-deprived. Delilah tried to sit up, her body protested. Ow, okay, less movement. Thessaly was already fussing, checking pulse points and temperature. Child, you bound a void wraith to an eternal prison using your own suffering as fuel. You're lucky you can move at all. I feel lucky, very lucky, also very sore. I'm going to leave you too before I witness something inappropriate, Thessaly announced, gathering her knitting. Maxwell, she needs rest. Don't make me come back. Noted. The healer left. Silence settled between them, not uncomfortable, just heavy with things unsaid. The kingdom, Delilah asked. Recovering, the fate threads restored themselves when you sealed the binding. People are confused, ashamed, but alive. And Annika? Trapped forever, exactly as you designed. Delilah nodded, looked at her hands. I know I lost something. I can feel the shape of it like a missing tooth, but I can't remember what. Maxwell sat on the edge of her bed carefully. Your parents, the memories you'd recovered. Long pause. Wind rustled the curtains. Do you regret it? He asked quietly. She thought about it, really thought. No, I chose to protect people. That matters more than remembering who made me. She looked at him. Does that sound cold? It sounds like you. Is that a good thing? It's the best thing. They sat together in comfortable silence. Outside, the kingdom rebuilt itself. Inside, Delilah rebuilt herself, piece by careful piece. A week later, she was walking the gardens, still weak but stubborn. Maxwell walked beside her, close enough to catch her if she fell, far enough to let her have independence. I can't do this yet, Delilah said abruptly. Maxwell tensed. The bond. The ceremony, the public claiming I'm not ready. Okay. She stopped walking, stared at him. Okay, just like that. You nearly died to save an entire kingdom. I think you've earned the right to a timeline that doesn't terrify you. He met her eyes. What do you need? Time, a year maybe, to figure out who I am when I'm not just surviving. Done. You're not angry. Why would I be angry? You're choosing to stay. That's more than I ever expected. Maxwell smiled. Besides, I'm very patient. Haven't you noticed? Your stupid patience, Delilah muttered, but she was smiling too. They decided to plant a tree. The coal cellar had been sealed, locked, warded with every protection the court mages could manage. But it was still there, still a wound in the palace grounds. Delilah wanted something different. What do you want here? Maxwell asked, holding a silver sapling. Something alive, something that grows. They dug together. Well, Delilah supervised while Maxwell did most of the actual digging. He hit a root almost immediately and swore. Very heroic, Delilah commented, really showing that soil who's boss. I'm a king, not a gardener. Could have fooled me. But they got the sapling planted eventually, its silver leaves already catching the light. Delilah knelt beside it, pressed her palm to the earth. I don't remember them, she whispered to the tree, but they remembered me, that's enough. The leaves shimmered in the wind like they understood. I've never grown anything before, she admitted. Maxwell knelt beside her. Then we'll learn together. That's disgustingly romantic. I know. 6 months later, Delilah entered the throne room with a case file tucked under her arm. She'd filled out proper weight, color in her cheeks, confidence in her stride. She wore practical clothes, not gowns. Her hair was braided simply. She looked healthy. She looked powerful. She looked free. We have another one, she announced. Village of Thornhaven, 3 suspicious deaths. Maxwell looked up from the council reports he'd been reviewing. Natural causes. The threads say otherwise, she grinned. Want to come with? I could use backup. For investigative work, or because you enjoy my company? Both. He stood, already reaching for his travel cloak. Lord Tadio sputtered from his council seat. Your Majesty, the trade agreements. Can wait. Lady Meredith, you're in charge until I return. They left together, not as king and queen, not even as mates yet, just as partners choosing each other day by day. Behind them, the silver tree grew taller in the garden. Its roots had spread deep, covering the sealed coal cellar with new life. At its base sat a music box, weathered and old, that Delilah had placed there on a whim. She didn't remember what it meant, didn't remember the lullaby it played or the mother who'd sung it. But she knew it mattered. And some days, when the wind blew just right through the silver leaves, she thought she heard singing. Gentle, loving, a voice she'd never quite remember but would always recognize. The tree grew, the kingdom healed, and Delilah learned what it meant to choose her own fate. That was enough. That was everything. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed the story. A big thank you to everyone who's following. Your support truly means the world to me.